Hello again. One of the things which made England a strong nation, as well as being a pleasant and peaceful place to live, of course, was the fact that it had its own distinctive way of life. There was a common religion, Christianity, a single ethnicity, that of white Europeans, and one language, English. The archetypal Englishman may well have been a figure of fun from time to time, but he certainly existed. There was an English sense of humour and an English way of seeing things. It was a definite thing. At first, when immigrants began arriving in the country in substantial numbers, they took it for granted that they would have to adapt themselves to the existing conditions of the society in which they had chosen to come and live. Quite right too. That's what I've always done in any country I've been in. There's no point going to live in Saudi Arabia and then insisting you should be able to open a pub or a strip joint. In the 1980s, though, this sensible approach in Britain began to be abandoned. Instead of integrating or assimilating into the majority culture, it was suggested that people should be free to import their own culture and live by different standards from the rest of society. Why should we think that democracy, Christianity and the English language should hold a special place in Britain? Surely that's rather pompous of us and displays contempt for other cultures and other nationalities. It's a form of internal colonialism. That, at least, was one of the arguments I heard advanced in those days. These were the times when schools experimented with what were known as mother tongue teaching lessons, whereby immigrants from Pakistan would have their lessons in Urdu or Punjabi, rather than being expected to learn English. This proved to be such a terrible idea that it was abandoned after a few years, thankfully. The idea of multiculturalism, though, that many different cultures could flourish side by side without one being the gold standard against which the others should be measured or compared, lived on. This, of course, ended with Islam being treated with the reverence which once we felt in this country for Christianity, and militant Muslims being placated if they started to get upset. It meant too that it was fine for people to keep talking foreign languages in England rather than going to all the trouble of learning English. An undesirable byproduct of multiculturalism has been the importation and growth of certain other customs, for example, knifing people whom you feel have slighted you in some way. This is almost exclusively the province of Africans and Caribbeans, of course, in Britain, as a quick glance at any newspaper will soon reveal. The question which I was wondering the other day is why was none of this ever put to the general population or incorporated into any political party's election manifesto? I have watched the development of this philosophy closely over the years, and it was devised in academic settings rather than a public arena. No announcement was ever made that such a scheme was to be generally adopted and imposed upon the country as a whole. The first many people knew of it was when expressions like Islamophobia were coined, and people who objected to certain conduct were being threatened with prosecution for so-called hate crimes. In other words, there was no consultation about this state of affairs, and it has in effect been imposed upon ordinary people by academics and politicians. It would be easier if this could be attributed to one political party or the other. Say if we could blame Labour for it and then vote against them if we disagreed with what was happening. This is not the case at all, and Boris Johnson and his Conservatives are every bit as enthusiastic about multiculturalism as any socialists or liberals could be. It is now the default setting for anybody who does not wish to be regarded as a fanatical racist or neo-fascist, And even asking questions about the doctrine of multiculturalism is quite sufficient to have people raising the eyebrows and viewing one askance. Can the process be reversed at this late stage? This would only be possible if enough people in the academic world were persuaded that actual harm is being done, or if one of the major political parties believed that there were sufficient votes in it. I cannot offhand see this happening anytime soon.